This week on TGI Monday, we're talking about finding the one. Hello and welcome to TGI Monday. As you can see, it's October here. It's probably autumn. We're all slightly wishing that Hywel had put the heating on earlier in church.
Too cheap. Don't ever come to this church.
No, it's too cheap. Too cheap.
So he's got gloves on and her coat, which, yeah.
Anyway,
in
the valleys.
Hopefully our teeth won't start chattering so hard you won't be able to understand us. We've got a great question today that's come in on Facebook from Paul. He asks, how do you know when you've found the one? Is there one person that God wants us to marry? So the rest of the panel are all married. I'm not, so I have no idea what this is like when you meet the one or don't meet the one. So I wonder, guys, who's got a story about meeting the one? Zoe, why don't you tell us about how you came to meet your husband and know that he was
Well, as all
one?
Teenagers, when I first became a Christian, I was, we're just obsessed with that, really, meeting the one. And then when that didn't happen immediately, when I went to university, I decided to just pretend God didn't exist and had lots and lots of boyfriends. And then when I came back to faith around the age of 21, I was like, right, that's it, God. I definitely am not having any more boyfriends unless you tell me first, and I never expected this prayer to be answered, but unless you tell me first that I'm going to marry him, I'm just not even going to go there. And I remember telling my mum that, and she said, oh dear, church isn't full of men, is it?
How did that work out for you then?
Well, I was in a meeting, he turns up, and I genuinely felt from God, that's him. And my first thought was, he's not even my type. But I kind of had that, okay, you're right. So he's the only man I ever asked out because I knew he was going to say yes.
Wow.
And it's the weirdest thing, but
nice
it is completely gospel truth. And I didn't even think that were possible. But
And
that
did
is
he
exactly...
know from the beginning as well? Or did you
No,
have
it
to
took
take
him a bit longer. And
some
I
time
managed not to
persuade
tell him.
Oh, really? Till later?
Yeah. It took him about 4 months.
Didn't want to scare him off, probably.
No, exactly.
I'd
Imagine
been
how
terrified,
scared
yeah.
I-
Yeah.
So no, I didn't do that. But I did know that this...
That
and
he
it was
was-
a weird sort of spiritual sort of knowing.
Wow.
And I've probably got that many of those in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And that is one of them.
And so for the rest of you, did you also have that sense of, there's a person across the room, I'm going to marry her?
No.
Go on, Hal.
No, we hated each other.
Oh dear.
Well, it was all right. It was sort of, we met, and then I went out with somebody else, which I forever have to sort of live with the humiliation of that now.
Yes.
And well, she might be. I don't know. She was all right. And there you go, innit? And we didn't like each other, but we ended up giving in really to the pressure because we actually did deep down sort of like each other.
So it was sort of love-hate kind of...
Pressure from who?
I think from love itself. I think the thing is with it is that a weird thing happened to me when I went to Bradford to university, where Zoe was, is that I thought I'd go to Bradford, right, to university, and it'd be full of women, and I'd run off with somebody else because she would be all the way down in Aberdeen, and that would be it, right? But when I went to Bradford, I sort of didn't like anybody else ever, and I haven't liked anybody else ever.
Oh.
So
how old were you when you met Emma?
17.
Okay.
So I'm Emma-sexual, because I only fancy women, right, who are called Emma, born in Aberdeen on the 4th of July. Oh. That's it.
That's really sweet,
No,
isn't
it's
it?
not. It's
Yeah,
just sort
it
of...
is.
It's lovely.
It's just...
It's very sweet,
But I don't
isn't
think
it?
God... What I do think, really, with the God question, is that I don't think that God is a bit like, Paddy McGuinness on, Leave the Light On. Do you know what I mean? It's not... I think that...
No, I think you're right. He's nothing like Paddy McGuinness.
And I think it's... Really, is God gives us the gift of the other person, but each day we have to choose to appreciate that gift. So every day I have to choose, and I don't have to choose, I choose to recognise my wife and my children as the greatest gift that God has ever given me.
So it's
And
interesting.
some days I do, and some days I don't.
We are doing Titus at church at the moment. And in my Bible study last week, we were talking about the bit where Paul tells Titus that older women should teach the younger women to love their husbands and children. That's very interesting, because I think often in society we just think, love is just something that happens and you just feel it and you just are in love. But actually, that sort of daily, how do I love my wife today when we're tired? How do I love my husband today when this dreadful thing has happened? Or, whatever it is, just the grind of life. How do you keep loving somebody? It is a choice, isn't it? And it is an active...
I thought you were going to say it's a chore.
Yeah.
But actually,
It sort of is as well.
It is in a way.
Yeah.
It's an active thing, and you do it whether you feel it or not, almost, and you
yeah.
just get on with it.
But I think the
It's a
trouble is all
decision
the
rather
time.
than a feeling.
It is, yeah. But I think that's what the essence of love is. It's a choice. And I think to say that God has got a plan for me, for the one, takes away that sense of choice. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And I think the other problem as well we have is there's this overly sort of Disneyfied ideas about relationships. And I think that's immensely destructive. Because when the relationship isn't perfect, because I know I'm not perfect, and I'm sure she'd tell you I'm straight, I'm not. But I think the wonder of love is loving someone because they're not perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So, Dan, what would you say to somebody perhaps who is single, who wants to know how they should go about finding somebody to marry?
The first thing I would do is I would ask them to pick up a novel by
No, I
Clark
really
and learn all about
That's
love.
probably not first.
Don't recommend that.
That's what I would do.
Oh,
And if you go on Amazon, you'll be able to find them. So what was the question again?
What actual advice would you give someone who is single, who's thinking, who is a Christian, wants to do the right thing? How should they go about finding someone to marry?
I think what's really important, as Hywel said, that thinking of there being one person for you is very romantic, particularly when you're in a relationship. But actually, sometimes relationships don't go right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be in a really, really bad relationship that you need to get out of.
Yeah.
And if for whatever happens, that relationship breaks down and you end up marrying someone else, which one was it that God meant you to have? And you end up in a bit of a trap that God has...
I think
God's
it's a bit of an
control.
abdication as well.
Yeah.
You're saying, I'm just hunting for that. It's like chasing Pokemon. You've got to find the right Pokemon.
That's
right.
And it's wrong. And actually, it's about how we approach relationships with other people.
I agree.
And it's something that you have to work at. You can't just... it does happen.
But you still.
But we don't have to make that the expectation for everyone.
It can be very hurtful to somebody who's lost a husband or wife. Who was very dearly loved, but then sometime later goes on to marry someone else. And you have to say, well, one of those was the one.
Yeah.
Actually, there was more than one person. Clearly.
Our relationship, God does not view our relationships like chess pieces on a chessboard that he's moving around.
No.
There might actually have been other people that we might have also had a good marriage with or a bad marriage with.
Yeah.
But when we make our choices, we're making our choices with the best intentions that we have and with all the love that we have.
Yes.
And our choices are always going to be imperfect.
But rushing in because you're looking for the one and you think, God, this is the one for me, and rushing in through there. There's a lot of Christians who've married very young because they've fallen headlong in love and don't think they can have sex before marriage, and rush into marriages that they're stuck in, or that they end up stuck in, which end up being like what you've just described, a trap that was not right.
Yes.
So taking advice and listening to other people, which is really hard to do when you're madly in love, because no one's ever been in love apart from you at that moment.
Yes.
But go steady, and maturity is pretty important in that decision making.
On the flip side, though, I'd say that when you know that you love that person, right? You know deep down within you know that. And when I was 18, I asked her to marry me, and she said no, and then she said yes afterwards. And and I think when I went back to university and I said, I'm engaged now, everybody laughed at me.
Oh yeah, sure.
And everybody said, don't be so stupid, you're pathetic, this is ridiculous. The way to be happy, right, is to, live for yourself and not the other.
Absolutely.
And I think that when you recognise that wonderful gift that the other person is for you, to make you together as a unit, the image of God, in the sense that the two people come together and become one flesh. And that is one of the greatest gifts that God can give us. And really, if you want to know what a relationship really is, I think, is watch the film Up. Because it is about it's the old woman on the bus. I'll get soppy, right?
Go on.
At the end, just after we got married, right,
We know you're
we were on the bus,
really.
right, No, I was on the bus like that, and this old couple got up, and this bloke picked up this woman and walked off the bus. And one of us said to the other person, said, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we don't really think there is the one that you have to go and find, but we do think that actually marriage, as you say, Hywel, it's about becoming one, and it's about that kind of love which lasts through many, many years, through all kinds of situations. It's about deciding to keep loving one another through to the end.
Even when they're really, really annoying.
Even when they are really, really annoying.
Exactly, because you love the fact that they're annoying. That's what I'm told.
Thanks for watching, and thank you to anyone who nominated us for the Premier Digital Awards this year. We've been shortlisted, so fingers crossed that we're going to do okay in that. Other than that, do keep asking us your questions. We love getting them. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the normal sources, and we'll see you again soon.